And on the bottom left, you're gonna go where it says other calendars, a little plus mark, and put in our email, which is ufprelegal@gmail.com. So that way you know when events are. There's details. If you click on a thing like what Zoom it's on, you can just join in right from there. And that's gonna be super helpful with trying to find events. So thank you.
Hi, everyone. Super excited for our GBM tonight. Our next GBM is going to be after spring break on Tuesday, March 19th. So mark your calendars for that. And then the one after that is election. So keep your eye out for more information regarding that as well. And as always, if you don't already follow us on our social media, do so. That's where you can get the easiest access to all of our information, and everything's just centralized in one place. So if you want to stay up to date, go follow us, join the group me, the website, all of that.
Great, thank you. Community service.
Hi, everyone. I'm Susan, and I just want to say thank you to everyone who came out to our blanket making event. It was a really big success, and we have some blankets that we're going to donate to Grace Marketplace. And those blankets are going to go to individuals that are experiencing homelessness. So we did a really great thing, and I'm really grateful for that involvement from everyone. Moving forward to March, our first event is going to be with Peaceful Pass. We're going to be breaking down their event for them, helping them pack up. It's a really special nonprofit, and I know that a lot of you already gave your interest on the interest form we sent out. We also outlined some steps to register for that event, but we'll keep you all posted with any updates for that upcoming event moving forward.
Diversity.
Hi, everyone. I'm Maria, one of the co-diversity directors. For the month of March, we are planning on hosting an event that is focused on disability awareness. And if our event that was supposed to be with the Florida Immigrant Coalition does not work out, we are planning on doing something about the intersectionality of Black women. Fundraising.
Hi, everyone. I'm Colin. I'm one of the co-directors for fundraising. Thank you all for the great attendance for our February events. For our first event in March, we're going to be doing a fundraiser at the Opus Coffee Shop in Innovation Square. That's going to be from 9 to 1 p.m. on Tuesday, March 19th.
And hey guys, I'm Drew. I'm the other fundraising director. Our second event for March is going to be a Bole Spirit Night. It's going to be on March 27th, and it's actually going to be all day from 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. at the Bole, just right near campus. All you'll have to do is mention PLHS at the counter, and it's for in-person orders only. Thank you.
Thank you. Internal affairs.
Hi guys, our next event is going to be tomorrow at 6:15 p.m. in the engineering building, which is right by the stadium, and we're going to be doing cookie decorating.
Hi, I'm Raquel. Our March event, we're tentatively looking to do a murder mystery again. We've done this previously in a couple semesters beforehand. It's a lot of fun. So right now it's looking like March 28th, but we'll keep you guys updated as to when and where that will be when it's set.
Intramurals.
Hey guys, so we finally have our stadiums rescheduled. It's going to be March 24th. That's a Sunday at 1 p.m. at Ben Hill Griffin Stadium.
Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Davis, and for our second event in March, we're looking to do yoga pod. I already sent out a interest form, but I'm looking to finalize the date. So just be on the lookout for another one. And I'm super excited. It should be a really fun and engaging event. So yeah, definitely sign up.
Law related.
Hey guys, our first event for March is on March 5th at 5:30. It's a Zoom event discussing the different types of law that you can get into as a future lawyer, and it'll be very interesting. So definitely swing by if you have time.
Yeah, and for our second event in March, which is still tentative, we're still planning, is actually going to be the FSU Law Tour that we mentioned. last week. I'd like to thank everyone who actually filled out the interest form. Means a lot, helps with the planning, and we're hoping to get further details out to you guys as we hopefully finalize it.
Mentor, mentee.
Hey guys, so our first meeting will be on March 6th from 6:30 to 7:30 on the main PLHS Zoom, and we're going to be doing a resume workshop.
And our second event for March is going to be on the 20th, again from 6:30 to 7:30 on the main Zoom, and we are going to be playing a law-related Jeopardy game with our mentors. So hope to see you there.
Mock trial.
Hi everyone, mock trial is well on its way to preparing for our competition. Just one thing to note is that we're working on scrimmages right now, and we're going to try to set up sort of an open house type thing for y'all eventually. So stay tuned for the dates and times for that.
And our competition is open for everyone to watch, and that's going to be March 23rd and 24th at the law school. We can send specific information about rooms and timings when it gets closer to there.
For public relations, this Friday at 4 p.m., we are doing a Zoom workshop on PR and the law. It's a collaboration with a PR organization here on campus. We'll be discussing how PR and the law intersect. So this point will be 2 points on Zoom at 4 p.m. on Friday.
All right, and last but not least, special events.
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to say thank you to those of you who came to the spring retreat. It was a really great time, and we're working on planning the spring banquet for sometime in April, so keep an eye out for more information on that.
Okay, for tonight's guest speaker, I am so excited to announce that it is Sam Farkas. He is an adjunct professor and the vice president of instruction and online education at Barbary. In this role, he leads learning and instruction efforts for the U.S. Bar Review, which includes developing curricula delivered at law schools across the country. Sam serves as an adjunct professor and teaches credit-bearing courses on law school and bar exam success skills. He is also a Barbary National Bar Review lecturer and specializes in helping students prepare for the multi-state bar exam. He is passionate about teaching and helping students gain the confidence and competence necessary to succeed in law school, on the bar exam, and beyond. He presents to faculty and administration nationwide on how to strengthen programming to improve bar outcomes and how to sharpen students' problem-solving, reading, and critical thinking skills. Sam graduated summa cum laude from Florida State University College of Law and is licensed in both Florida and Georgia. He currently lives in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and can also be seen as the host of Powerball. So I'm hoping with Sam as our speaker, you can see that there is so much to do with a law degree apart from specifically just practicing law. And also this will give us great exposure to the bar exam, since, at least speaking for myself, I don't really know much about it. So everyone, welcome Sam. I'm not sure if he has joined us
I
yet.
am on. Can you hear me?
Hi, Sam. Welcome.
Hello, and thank you for having me. Delighted to be here with you all.
Thank you so much for joining us. If you want to start by telling us a little bit about yourself, and then we can move into like a question and answer session.
Yeah, well, it was a good intro. Thank you. I appreciate it. Now I'm a little bit guilty for, having to show my face from that picture that I took years ago. I'm Sam Farkas, delighted to be here with you. As Sydney said, I am an attorney. I graduated in 2012, I believe it was, from Florida State University. Was a double null. I did my undergrad and my law school at FSU. I guess I couldn't get enough of that. And then right after law school, I went to work for Barbary. And some of you may know who Barbary is. Most of you probably don't know, but Barbary has been around for the past 55 years or so, specializing primarily in helping students pass the bar exam. So once you get through your law school education, you have the biggest test of your lives in the form of the bar exam, which of course is the law licensing exam. And as it turns out, law school is really great to help you learn how to think like a lawyer and to acquire the skills that you need to be successful as a lawyer, but it doesn't do the best job in the world of preparing you for that law licensing test. So most students feel that they need to take a separate program, about a 10-week intensive course, to prepare for that assessment, which is where we come in at Barbary. And we've been preparing students for the bar for, like I said, 55 plus years. And over the recent past decade or so, we've really kind of expanded and now we touch almost all aspects of legal education. In my current role with Barbary, I'm the VP of Instruction and Online Education, which is a fancy way of saying I lead most of our learning efforts around the company, in bar prep and the bar review product, as well as in a lot of our law school products. So we build curricula for law schools. I teach the curricula at a number of law schools. We've developed almost all of this online. And then we also publish case books, the textbooks that you'll use in law school. And we do LSAT prep and we do professional education. We pretty much touch every aspect of the lawyer's journey from pre-law through practice. So it's a career that has taken me to kind of a lot of really interesting things, and I've gotten to do a lot of really interesting things all centered in legal education. And now get to sort of lead really bright teams of people to build those products. My passion, I would say though, is in teaching. I love being in the classroom. I love helping students prepare for the bar exam. I still teach every single semester a course in a law school somewhere. I'm actually teaching this spring at FSU, teaching about 100 students who are getting ready to take the bar this summer. And I also, I don't know if you mentioned it, Sydney, but I think you may have mentioned it in one of your announcements. I also have a couple of clients, one of which you may know, her name is Kim Kardashian, helping.
Yeah, I've definitely fangirled over that to everybody here, and you can elaborate on that however much you would like.
I mean, yeah, I mean, that's been a fascinating journey, just sort of, working with her. I think, and I mean this from sort of the bottom of my heart, I think she's an inspiration because she's someone that doesn't need to do that, right? She's doing it because she has a passion for helping people, particularly, of course, if those of you are familiar with her story, wrongful convictions and within criminal justice. So she really has a passion for that, and she realized that she wanted to be educated and she wanted to be able to get her law degree and become an attorney so that she can advocate more zealously for those clients and help more people. I think it's an inspiration. Many of you if you followed her story, you certainly know it was not easy, right? I mean, particularly because she did a slightly different path. She didn't go to law school for obvious reasons. She's doing a separate sort of self-study program, working with myself and a few others to learn everything she needed to know to pass. And when you're doing that kind of a program in California, which is specific to California, you have to take a baby bar exam, and it's sort of a precedent to continuing on with the remainder of legal education and ultimately taking the full bar exam. And that was, it's hard. It's a hard exam, one, and two, she's a big life, she's very, very busy, and she really had to dedicate a lot of time, as anyone would, to passing that. And she did it, and she didn't give up, and she kept pressing forward, and she came back every time stronger and stronger. And I think it was an inspiration to so many people, whether they were thinking about law as a career and looking at the obstacles that you got to cross, whether it's the LSAT, getting through college, what have you, law school itself, which happy to speak a little bit about momentarily if you're interested in sort of getting a better understanding of law school, but that's no walk in the park. And then of course, when you do all of that, getting to the bar exam, which is also really, really challenging. So I think it's an inspiration to anyone who was sort of somewhere along that journey, and certainly could sort of resonate for how she was just continuing forth and coming back and not giving up. So I couldn't be more proud. I think she serves as an inspiration for a lot of people doing hard things, and not giving up. Excuse me. Tell me what you want me to talk about. I mean, I could talk about many things. The one thing I will mention, because all of you are interested in the law or law school bound, today was the second day of the bar exam for February. So the bar exam is offered twice a year, once in February and once in July. Every single year, the bar exam is administered the last Tuesday and Wednesday in February and the last Tuesday and Wednesday in July. So this is the last Wednesday in July. So applicants across the country today sat for the multi-state bar exam, which is a brutal 200 multiple choice question test. 6 hours of testing. It's about 8 hours of the day sitting in a big examination room with lots of other people taking a very hard and a very long multiple choice test. So if you happen to know of anyone sitting for the bar, take them out for a cocktail tonight. They deserve it, or four, because they worked hard today and it was a challenging day.
So just to ask for myself, how many times in your life can you take the bar exam, or is it not like that?
So once you graduate from law school, an ABA accredited law school, you can sit for the bar. I mean, you can take it as many times as you want for the most part. I don't know every jurisdiction's rules. I feel like I'm a lawyer. I probably shouldn't say always everywhere, but generally speaking, you can take it as many times as you want. You just don't want to. That's the thing, right? You really want to do it one time and be like, done. I don't ever want to do that again. Thank you. That was miserable enough. But yeah, Kim had a little different situation in California for that baby bar. They had a cap on how many times students could take that. But that was because it's a different type of program and there's no law school and all of that stuff.
Got it. Thank you. Gabby, you have a question?
Yeah, hi, how are
Hey,
you?
Gabby, good. How are you?
Good. So just because I'm originally from New York and like I'm looking at law schools in Florida, how does that work with taking like the New York bar versus the Florida bar? Like how does that vary? Because I know you just said that there's a multi-state exam, but like how does that depending on where you go to law school?
So great question. I'm going to answer it with sort of like the relevant information for today, and then I'm going to give you a curveball caveat right when I finish. So way it really works is it doesn't really matter, right? People go to law school across the country. They go to schools in all kinds of different jurisdictions. For the most part, you don't learn too much state-specific law when you're in law school. Now, there are some exceptions, right? If you go to a very sort of state-specific school, I don't want to name schools on the call, but there's some sort of smaller regional schools where they might focus a little bit more on, you may have like, a state-specific torts kind of elective class if you just know you want to stay in the state and practice or something like that. But for the most part, particularly through your first year, it's kind of like national law, like majority rule, what most states do in terms of what the law is in these various topic areas, contracts, torts, real property. So you don't need to worry too much about that. Once you graduate, you'll decide where you want to go take the bar. You'll apply to that jurisdiction to take the bar. As it turns out, New York and many other states, not Florida, but many other states use what's called the Uniform Bar Exam, which is the UBE. It is all national law, no state law necessary. So you wouldn't even need to know state law for New York today. Now, if you're taking Florida, they do test on Florida law. So if you went to a New York school and you wanted to come down to Florida, you would just have to take a course like Barbary in that last 10 12 weeks before the bar exam and shove all the Florida law that you need to know for the test in your head so you could take the exam. Now, I said I was going to flip all that on its head. The reason I put a big asterisk next to what I just said is in 2026, the National Conference of Bar Examiners, which is the entity, the group that creates the multi-state bar exam, which is that 200 question multiple choice exam, the uniform bar exam, which is the comprehensive sort of national bar exam, they are changing the bar. They are coming out with what's called the next generation bar exam, which is going to look kind of pretty different from what the current exams look like. So if you're just applying to law schools now, you're matriculating in the fall, you're in a jurisdiction that will be adopting the next gen exam, you would very well be taking this new exam. But it will work the same way as the UBE, no state specific law for the most part. My personal opinion is I don't think Florida is going to adopt that. California has signaled pretty strongly that they are not going to adopt it. So a number of the bigger states are questioning it. New York is a question mark. I don't know what New York will do. New York could go back and do what they used to do years ago, have their own bar exam, which was very hard back in the day. Or they could sort of stay with what they are now and keep the more national bar exam in place. So I don't know, sort of a lot of flux in the bar licensing space right now. Many other states are looking at non-bar exam licensing, doing kind of like a path to like a practice path to licensing where you effectively work somewhere and sort of gain your license through actually working with lawyers and producing work product. But good question. Yeah. Awesome. Go to whatever school you want to go to. Don't worry about school and bar exam. You can figure all the stuff you need for the bar exam out later.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to ask, because I know there's a misconception with like you have to go to law school and practice.
No. So the old school rule is go to the best law school you can get into. Full stop. I didn't do that. I did not go to the best law school I got into. I went to the best law school that I wanted to pay for. Like, I think for me, taking on the debt was actually a really big concern. And I think that's a big mistake that law school students today are not really weighing that too much. I mean, you're going to come out with debt, and be mindful of how much debt you want to come out of school with. It really can limit your job options. I have friends that, went to Emory and some of these really great schools. They spent a lot of money and they ended up having to take jobs they didn't really want because the money, right? They were high paying jobs, but they weren't necessarily jobs they wanted. And the jobs they wanted may have been in public service, working for the public defender's office, and some of these other jobs that would have been really fun and interesting to them, but they couldn't make that work because of the debt load. So I would strongly encourage you to go to the best law school that you want to pay for, right? That you want to be able to walk away and still have the flexibility that you need. Yeah, sorry, Maya, your hand was up.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask if you think that how you do on the LSAT is a good indicator of like how you'll do on the bar.
I love this question. Thank you for asking this, Maya. I have really strong feelings about this. I actually think it has very little correlation to how you're going to do in law school. And here's what I think is true. What I think is true is the higher you perform on the LSAT, there is the most correlation to law school performance. Meaning, if you score really, really high, you are more likely than not to do well in law school. Where the correlation starts to completely break down is in the mean downward. So the sort of the average score down, that's where there's like the least amount of correlation, right? So you could do really badly on the LSAT and go on to perform really, really well in law school. But the reason why schools still like it is, one, it's an objective measurement. And let's face it, a lot of us, we're lawyers, we like objective measurements. It helps sort of give us the frame, the picture we need. But two, if you're a law school and your job is to seat the most qualified class you possibly can seat, well, it makes sense. I'm going to try to get the highest scores I can because from a statistical point of view, they are the most likely to do well. That isn't to say that someone scoring much lower is not going to do well. I'm just hedging my bets. They are more likely to do. So if you didn't quite get the score you wanted, or you didn't get a good score at all on the LSAT, hear me, it has really no correlation to how you might go on to do in law school. I did not do that great on the LSAT. I mean, I was like kind of average. And I was fourth in my law school class at FSU. I mean, it had zero effect, right? It didn't predict anything for me. And I know a lot of other people for which it didn't predict really anything. And I know some people who did really well on the LSAT and did not take to law school very well. So yeah, I'm not sure who was next, Helena or Sydney.
Helena.
Hi. So you mentioned like the multi-state bar exam being a bunch of multiple choice. I've heard the California one being like really difficult and having essays. So can you speak to like the structure of what is actually on a bar exam and maybe how that differs by state?
Yeah, great question. You guys are asking like better questions than I get when I sit in like a third-year law school class. This is much more fun. Great question. So yeah, so let me just back up for a second. So in most states, the bar exam consists of a writing day, an essay day, a whole day of writing, and then the second day is a multiple choice question day. In all the states and territories except for Louisiana, the multiple choice day is the multi-state bar exam. They all adopt the multi-state bar exam as the multiple choice test. So virtually everyone in the country sitting for a bar exam is taking on the second day this 200 question multiple choice exam prepared by the National Conference of Bar Examiners. Day one, the essay writing day, is where there's a lot more variation, right? When I first started a decade ago in bar prep, there were a lot of states doing their own state-specific essay tests. They create their own essays, they create their own materials, test on the state law. And if you were taking that jurisdiction, you had to go answer the essays according to the state law. Over the past decade, a lot of states have moved to this uniform bar exam, which is also created by the National Conference of Bar Examiners. And now I think it's like 40-something states are all doing the uniform bar exam. So in those states that do it that way, students answer 6 essays, 30-minute essays, and then that's in the afternoon. In the morning of day one, they answer 2 multi-state performance tests, which are these 90-minute problems where you get cases to read, you get a problem, you get a bunch of like fact materials, like excerpts from a deposition, letters, all this kind of client matter stuff. And you have to do a lawyer job. You have to like write a memo, solve a problem, write jury instructions. They tell you what they want you to do, but it's a lawyering task, kind of a traditional first year associate lawyering task. And they're just measuring, can you do that? Can you read a case? Can you extract the rules? Do you understand kind of how the law works and how to do X, Y, or Z? Can you write a client letter? Whatever it is. So that's the typical kind of structure. To your point, states like California, Florida, Georgia, a few others they don't use the uniform bar exam. Their essay testing day is their own law. They create their own essays to test. So Florida tests with 3 one-hour essays and 100 of their own multiple choice questions. Georgia uses 5 of their own Georgia essays, and then 1 performance test. So the individual states kind of may change it up a little bit. The vast majority of states all use the same uniform bar exam, the national bar exam. Yeah. California hard or not? I think California used to be hard because it used to be 3 days. They used to have 3 days. They pulled it back to 2 some years ago. I think it is harder. I think California is harder because the cut score is harder. You have to do better in California than you do in some other states to pass. There's also a lot more people taking it in California. And I'll note there's a lot of unaccredited law schools in California, which when you look at the pass rates, it's probably impacting the pass rates that you see, which could make it look like California is a lot harder. I don't know if it's an objectively harder test than say Florida is. I don't know. I've not sat for California, I should be clear. I'm licensed in Georgia and Florida, but I'm not. California's next on the list. I just haven't done it yet. Peyton?
Again, yeah.
Yeah, so I kind of have 2 questions. So a lot of students will like get employed while they're in law school and kind of have that job lined up. And obviously like you need to like be licensed to practice law. So do employers kind of like factor in that time that you need to like study for the bar and practice the bar? And then also kind of like what happens if someone doesn't pass the bar, and like how does that like impact their employment? Like have you seen that before?
Yeah, I'm going to give you the best lawyer answer that you're going to hear this all throughout your legal education. It depends, right? It depends on who the employer is. It depends on the relationship, the structure. It's not uncommon for some students to have a job lined up, conditional kind of employment offer on the table, conditional on you passing the bar exam. Typically, yes, they give you time. If you're already working, say, part-time or full-time, even for the firm, they'll usually give you some time to take off. They tend to be pretty flexible. They've all done it. They know how hard it is. So I think you have a pretty empathetic audience there. And then I've seen it all kinds of ways. Sometimes, someone may fail and the employer's pretty easygoing about it. And they're just like, take it again in February. I should comment. Some really bright, famous people have failed the bar exam. Hillary Clinton. There's lots of people not pass the first time. It's not an indication of intelligence. So it depends. I didn't have a job lined up when I was studying for it. I didn't get my job until after I took it and passed. But it depends. In terms of having a job, I think it's great in your 3rd year of law school if you have a part-time job and it gives you a chance to work in a law firm, see what you like, build relationships, gives them a chance to see you. And yeah, if they really like you, I think they'll go out of their way to work with you and wait until you pass. A lot of firms will pay for you will pay for Barbary, pay for your bar prep, just to ensure you get the most resources that you can to be successful. All negotiable, I should say. So negotiate that. Sydney, did you have a question?
Yeah, I just was curious. For the bar exam, is that something that you wait for until after you're done with law school to start studying for? Or is it like how the LSAT, like you're studying for it while you're like in college?
Yeah, that's a good question. So a lot of schools today, because bar passage increasingly so is really starting to matter to law schools. When I was in law school, yeah, the school cared about its bar passage rate, but there was like no consequences tied to it other than like reputation. Like they didn't want to be like, FSU was like, we want a good pass rate, it needs to be respectable, but if it's 90% or 85%, we're not gonna care that much. About 2 years ago, the US News and World Report, which ranks law schools, right? And law schools do tend to care about rankings, many of them, not all of them. They changed their entire metrics for how they rank law schools. And one of the key changes to the system was bar passage. I mean, bar passage went from being like maybe 2 or 3% of the overall equation to like 30 something percent. So all of a sudden, like overnight, bar passage at law schools became like a really important thing. I happen to agree. I think we should be measuring outcomes, right? We should be looking at what kind of lawyers are you producing, law school, to rank you, not what's the incoming class's LSAT score. Like in other words, look at output, not input, as a way to measure. So I think it makes a lot of sense, but that has started to shift the game a bit. And I think more and more law schools are doing early bar prep in law school. So you have a class maybe in your third year of law school for credit where they bring in someone like me and you focus on bar preparation as a course in your education for credit, for grade. But mostly bar prep begins once you graduate. And like I said, for most students, it's about a 10 to 12 week intensive course, 8-10 hours a day of hard study, day after day after day. It is a true beatdown. I can't make it sound what it isn't. It is hard. And you just really kind of spend that 10-12 weeks just head down, working hard, studying every day, and then you take the exam. That's what most people do.
Thank you, Drew.
Hi. I was just wondering if there's anything that I guess you wish you knew before you started bar exam prep, or that like you teach that most students don't know before starting bar exam prep.
Oh, wow. Yeah, there's a lot. Requires like a whole hour on just things. Well, and there would be a lot I would tell people at different stages of their journey, right? So I want to be cognizant that you all are sort of at the very, very beginning. I mean, the basic piece is, you can't take it for granted. You need help. You need a complete, full scale bar review program like a Barbary to get you through it. There's no other way. You can't self-study for this thing. I mean, you need a ton of practice questions and resources and lectures and practice essays and on and on and on and on. For someone in your shoes, I would say, you know what? I think that what I would say to an incoming student is that while the bar is going to be way off on the horizon, your first year of law school, I mean, your job is just like get through this agony of first year law school. It really matters. I mean, every single subject you're taking in your first year is heavily tested on the bar exam. So the better you learn all of that while you're taking those courses, the better you understand it, the better will redound to your benefit 3 years later when you're reviewing all this stuff for bar prep, right? Like I see students sometimes now, they really struggle with like contracts or torts because they didn't get a good foundation when they took the class in law school. They just didn't understand it. They didn't do well in it. And they're having to like not only review it, but like relearn it or like unlearn things that they learned incorrectly. And that can be a real challenge. I would say maximize your legal education. I mean, while law schools don't necessarily endeavor to like help you just excel in the bar, all the skills you learn all really helps you on the bar. I'm thinking of things like reading skills, right? So all of you, I'm assuming, have excellent reading comprehension skills. No doubt, you're going to grad school. But the kind of reading skills for legal success, for success in law, it's a critical reading ability. It's an ability to think really critically and logically and analytically. And law school will teach you how to do that if you just kind of give in the process, if you don't fight it, right? So one of the things you'll hear a lot in your first year is you should be briefing cases. You're going to have literally hundreds of cases every week to read. And someone will tell you, hopefully many people will tell you, you should be briefing these cases. Well, at some point, maybe like, halfway through the first semester, you're going to be like, this is a lot of work. Like, I don't know if I really need to do this. I can just read the case and kind of get a good sense of what's going on. The problem with that is that you're not training yourself. You're not really training your brain as well as you could be training your brain for how to really critically read and dissect this material. So those kind of shortcuts that people end up taking just because they want to be more efficient or they don't want to put the work in can cost you downstream because you end up robbing yourself of like that muscle development, that mental muscle development. So I would say a lot of the advice you're going to get, particularly from academic support people at your law school or upperclassmen, take it and like follow it. Like don't try to like fight the process. You know, your professors are going to be rigorous in their questioning of you. They're going to hold your feet to the fire. And all of that's designed to teach you how to think more rigorously. And that is all helpful when it comes to the bar exam. I think that's what I would advise you. Best advice too for new law school students, treat it like a job. 8 hours a day, show up at 9 o'clock, leave at 5:30 or 6. It's a job. It's a 9 to 5 job. Don't treat it like college. Yeah, Alyssa.
So, thank you for being here first. I had spoken to one of my previous internship supervisors, and they were talking about how some states have bars that are like transferable to other states, like after you practice there for a few years, and then some states don't. And I was wondering if you like knew about that process, or if like you knew like what you should do. Like, let's say like you wanted to do that, and then like your family ended up moving, like how
Yeah.
that process went about.
Yeah, it's called reciprocity, right? So I'm not an expert on the rules of reciprocity. They vary from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, but the easy answer is, remember that uniform bar exam I was talking about that like 40 some odd jurisdictions have adopted? Well, the primary value driver of that is that if you take the uniform bar exam in one of those states, your score is portable, meaning within a certain amount of time, you can take your score, say in Alabama, and apply it to New Mexico and apply for New Mexico bar admission with the same test that you took in Alabama with the same score. As long as you did well enough from a score perspective to meet the cut score in that other jurisdiction, you've satisfied the bar requirement. So the sort of value proposition of the uniform bar exam is it allows for more sort of easier transfer from state to state to state. That wouldn't be the case though with like a Florida that has a very custom specific state bar exam. And in Florida, unfortunately, there's no reciprocity. Florida is one of the few, if not only, states that sort of doesn't play at all with reciprocity. If you want to be licensed in Florida, you're sitting for the Florida bar exam. No ifs, ands, or buts. There's a waiver if you practice for a number of years. You can pay kind of some money, and they'll like allow you. Florida may not even do that. I'd have to go back and check Florida. Florida's very strict. I think in Florida you have to sit for the bar exam. So yes, Florida, you can. Most states allow a waiver. But yeah, and yet to be known about this new forthcoming next gen exam. Part of what they're trying to sell the states on is if they adopt the next gen exam, then they're still back into this portable score world where there'll be more flexibility for applicants to move from state to state. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much.
Yeah, good questions. Anthony. Or I may have forgotten Susan. Actually, Susan, I think your hand was up. Go, Susan.
Thank you. Thank you so much for speaking to us. My question is, have you identified any universally effective testing strategies or habits that you've seen in either the bar exam process or even the LSAT studying process?
LSAT or bar? So LSAT would be the one area I'm probably like the least kind of competent in, just because I don't really teach or really work too much in that space. So I can't give you very much on the LSAT, although I do understand that. Have you all taken the LSAT? Who's taken the LSAT?
We're all basically in different stages of the process.
Different stages. Okay.
Yeah, so most of our members, I would say right now, haven't taken the LSAT.
Studying for it. Well, I understand the LSAT's changing. They're taking logic games off. Is this sounding familiar?
Yeah, starting in August, they're taking away logic games.
Which was the thing that I just bought. I could never like, and I'm extremely logical, and I don't know. I panicked. I could never do them. So I don't know if I can help you too much with LSAT. Practice, I think, get a course, practice, do as well as you can do. In terms of bar, I mean, I guess, I don't know. I think it's about preparation. I think it is, both with LSAT and with the bar exam, they're high stakes exams. And if you have a tendency to have anxiety, it can roar up in those moments. I'll share this story with you with my LSAT. I do share this with students when I teach. When I first went in to take the LSAT, I was at FSU because it was being offered there. And I sit down, it's sort of prepared, but not very hard. And the proctor said, you may begin. You open the test booklet. And it was like, I think it was maybe reading comprehension or maybe arguments. I don't remember. But the first word was like, begin with the. The first word in the sentence was the. And I remember just starting, like I looked down to start to read it. And all of a sudden, this like wave of anxiety rushed through my body and completely debilitated me to where I remember just sitting at my desk thinking, The. What does the mean? I don't know what the means. What does the word the mean? And then having a complete panic attack that I couldn't read. I couldn't even read the sentence on the page. It's debilitating if you do have anxiety and it affects you. So I learned from that experience. I realized after that exam, I canceled my score, that wasn't going to work. I needed a strategy, and I started doing some reading and just sort of like learning how to manage that anxiety, which served me really well when I got to law school, because I don't know if you know yet, but when you get to law school, most of your courses, you're going to study all semester, go to class, do all this work, no grades, no nothing. You get to the final exam week, you sit for a 3 to 4 hour exam, that's your grade. It all comes down to that test on that day and what you are able to demonstrate in that moment. That's a high stakes exam for most people coming from college that have never had that kind of a situation before. I mean, we're used to like homework assignments and quizzes and feedback, and none of that in law school. You just go class week after week and you have no idea, are you getting it? Are you not getting it? Are you where you need to be? Are you not where you need to be? Until you take this final exam, and then it's too late. You get whatever grade you get. So I was thankful I had the LSAT panic attack, because I was able to work on that sort of anxiety by the time I got to law school. And I do some coaching with clients as well as in bar prep and with Barbary students about like breathing strategies and ways you can really manage that. If it hits you hard. Yeah. Anthony.
Yeah, I was wondering, because we've mentioned it a bit now, what are some of the reasons that states will refuse to accept the multi-state or the uniform bar exam if those reasons have been disclosed?
I want to make sure I understand your question, Anthony. What are some reasons why a state would like not offer the uniform bar exam, or would
Yeah,
not?
like Florida, for instance.
For Florida. Okay. That's a good question. I can give you my hypothesis. I don't know that there's like an on the record answer. I guess probably like the public answer would be that some states like Florida want to test on Florida law. They want licensed attorneys in Florida. This is just a judgment call, a policy decision by the Board of Florida Bar Examiners. They want a test that reflects Florida. And if you offer the uniform bar exam, it's national law. It's no Florida specific rules. So they probably keep it that way because they want to preserve that Florida day, that Florida specific testing piece. They use the MBE, the multi-state, the multiple choice test on the second day, which is national law, just to cover all the ground that you can cover in 200 multiple choice questions. I would suppose that's the answer they would give you. I can't help but think in Florida, there's a bit of, let's put it this way. Florida is a retiree state. There's lots of attorneys moving here from across the country. They make it to where it's just even across the board. If you want to be a lawyer here in Florida, you got to sit for the bar exam. You might imagine that may dissuade a number of people coming to retire here from being attorneys in Florida, because that's a lot of work. If you're retiring, coming to the Sunshine State, you might just be like, yeah, I'm not sitting for a bar exam. I've got a whole career of law underneath my belt. I'm not going to go do that again. That's the cynical answer in me. I don't know if that's actually true or not. Their answer would probably be they want Florida tested on the bar exam. But that doesn't answer why there's no reciprocity. And that's why my cynical answer, I feel like, is probably accurate. Yeah. Ro? Is that how I say your name?
Yeah, really. So I wanted to ask you, how do you think this change in the LSAT format will affect the grading scale of it?
Gosh, like it's a good question. I don't know. I mean, so a psychometrician, a scientist who studies testing in a high stakes test type of format, would say it shouldn't affect it at all, because if they're doing their job right, they're equating the difficulty of the test to make it all sort of even. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if that means somehow the scaling changes, right? The raw score to the sort of scaled score shifts more in a certain direction, up or down. It's hard to know. I would think that, I guess I'd be surprised if we saw a big difference in the scoring. The interesting thing was during COVID, the NCBE had to quickly pivot to an online, I'm sorry, the LSAC, which is the group that produces the LSAT. they had to pivot to online testing for the LSAT. LSAT Flex, I think is what it was called. And there was some anecdotal evidence that that test was way easier than the paper and pencil. I don't think it was ever quantified. There was just sort of some anecdotal viewpoints. I don't know. Maybe it gets easier. Maybe it gets harder. Hard to know. Wish I could give you more on that. I don't know. I would be grateful if I were in your shoes. I didn't have to do logic games. I would just take that as a win and be like, the logic games were the worst, horrible things. I hated them. Caused me to break out into a cold sweat. Have you guys done the logic games? Have seen them? I don't even know if you, yeah, okay, good. I don't know how far along they are from being completely eradicated from the prep materials. What other questions, guys? You guys get really good questions. What are my thoughts on taking a gap year before law school? Oh, I love that question. I highly support the gap year. I took a 2-year gap between college and law school. I really thought that was kind of a helpful part of my success, partially because I was able to get into the mindset I was trying to articulate earlier. It was a job for me. I'd been working for 2 years. I knew how to do a job. I knew what it felt like to be in a job working 9 to 5. I was working for the state at the time. And yeah, I just transitioned from that day job into law school and just parked myself in my office in the library all day long, went to class when I needed to, and it was a job. And I felt like that helped me. I think it also helped me. I think it was helpful that I was a little bit older, not by much, but just even a couple years when you're that age, your age, sorry, speaking to you as like a 40-year-old. It meant that I wasn't so interested in like, all the drama. Law school's like high school, y'all. It gets very like it's a tight group of people. Everybody's in each other's business. You're all like going out every, night and doing things. And there's like a prom. It's very high school. It's like you just got thrown back into high school. So being a little bit older, I was just like, I'm not interested in all of that. I had a whole life elsewhere, and I just I had friends, but I just wasn't into that other stuff. So I think that helped me. So yeah, if you can do it and it works for you and all of that, I would say gap year is a good thing. A lot of schools will let you defer for a year. So if you get accepted somewhere, you can check in sort of deferral. But I would do it if you have a job too. Like, I mean, because obviously helpful to have a job. Megan.
Hi, sorry. I don't know if you already talked about this because I got here just a little bit late, but I feel like one of the biggest things I'm stressed about with concerning law school and picking one once I go through that whole process is what if I really like a law school, but I'm not sure if that's the necessary area that I want to stay, take the bar, or live the rest of my life in. Because I feel like there's a lot of pressure on where you go to law school is where you're at for the rest of your life. So what's your advice when battling?
And we sort of talked about this a little bit. I don't think it matters that much in terms of the bar exam, right? Like if you go to a New York law school, you're not going to be like SOL for taking the Florida bar exam. Like you will learn what you need to learn from a bar prep company like where I work, Barbary, and that's not the worry. The only caveat is, I mean, listen, if you're going to a top 30 law school, go to the top 30 law school. Like you can go to Berkeley and show back up in DC and get hired at a firm. Everyone knows who Berkeley is. That it's a nationally respected law school, right? Some law schools tend to be more regionally sort of focused, right? Where they're like, they don't have like a national footprint, but they're like certainly within the state, very well respected, very well known. Members of the Supreme Court in the state went there kind of thing. For those like more regional law schools, it's not going to affect you on the bar exam either. In terms of getting a job, the job network, the types of people who, when you're out and about talking to that would sort of know that school and have experience the school, they may be more regionally focused than nationally focused. So that'd be the only consideration. It's not a deal breaker by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, even FSU, like FSU is a good school. I think it's somewhere straddles the top 50, but it's a regional school. Like, I mean, folks up in New York City don't really know FSU, right? Like it doesn't have that kind of profile. But in Florida, I mean, I'd be hard pressed to go talk to a lawyer in Florida that wouldn't recognize Florida State University in Florida and know kind of the caliber of the school, know people who went there, on and on and on. So I think that's the only thing. If you're if you know you want to live in a particular state, it makes sense to go to law school in that state, but it's not like the outcome determinative factor of it all, right? And particularly if you have access or can get into a school that has a really large national kind of profile, by all means, like that will serve you. Make a caveat too of don't just go to the best school you can get into. Think about the money. The money matters. You're going to end up with debt. It can be a lot. So, Sydney?
Yeah, I just was wondering, I mean, my mind's basically made either way, but for a lot of people that are looking to practice law in Miami, a lot of the things that I hear between like UM versus FIU, like FIU is obviously like a way like more affordable option for a lot of people, and they also like have a higher bar passage rate, which is what a lot of people say when I'm like, I want to go to UM. But if UM has like better connections and stuff, and like the bar passage rate doesn't really matter when people are like they have a better bar passage rate, like what do you think like the connections like are more important?
It's a really good question. So I think the question is, should I look at like bar passage or like overall sort of history? I mean, obviously a school like UM has been around a long time, has a much larger network of people, all that. Yeah, I mean, so it's a hard question. I mean, I would tend to go with a school. Bar passage is important, right? It really is important. And the fact that FIU has put so much effort, and I know I know the folks at FIU, they do tremendous work. They really have built a law school from almost the ground up with this key driving goal of we want to excel in helping our students pass the bar exam. And I think that's noble. I think that's wonderful. And I think they're a really good school. They do a lot of great work. But that isn't to say like UM isn't good because they're not doing all of that. They're a bit more of a traditional school, kind of focused in the more traditional kind of pedagogical approaches and ways. I would encourage you to visit the school that you are looking at. Visit a number of schools, and honestly, it's probably going to be like, this is where I feel comfortable. This is what I feel like is the right fit for me. You can't go wrong with either of those two. And honestly, most of all of this is going to be what you put into it, right? You're not going to be able to go to a school. I don't care where it is. I don't care if it's Harvard, right? And just do nothing, walk out and have a job. Like it's going to be about how you hustle. It's going to be about how you go and build a network, how you go market yourself, how well you do in school to be able to talk to employers about your experience and performance, right? It's going to be about your resume. And it's helpful to have a school that has a big network, but it's you can also build your network just by meeting people and talking to people and so I think it's about where you want to be and how the school resonates for you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Drew.
Yeah, I have kind of a different question than everyone's been asking. Can you talk a little bit about how you ended up as the host of Powerball?
Yeah. So out of undergrad, when I graduated from undergrad, my major was television production, television on camera stuff. I was like, I forget, television media, I forget what it was. And one of my professors was a local news anchor in Tallahassee. She passed along a job an audition to me for, at that point, it was just the Florida lottery. So just the Florida game. So Florida has its own sort of lottery, as many states do. And she's like, you should go audition for this. I had already gotten accepted to law school. I was law school bound. But I was like, what the hell? I'll go audition for this thing. So this would have been like 2007, like that, 2006 or 7. So I walk into this audition. This is at a point when American Idol was still really kind of big. And the director was like, give me more game show. And I was like, I don't know what that means. Like, I was just doing this like lottery audition, right? So all I could think of was Ryan Seacrest. So I like channeled my best Ryan Seacrest, like, this is the Florida lottery. And like, what he was like, that's great. Give me more game show. So before I left there, I was like, I don't even know. This is like a complete caricature, but I did the audition. I left. A couple of days later, the agent who was casting the whole thing called me and she's like, they want to see you again. Will you come back? I did like 3 or 4 more callbacks. Lo and behold, they offered me the job. That was from Florida. So I didn't go to law school at that point. I worked. This is my gap year. I took off some time. I did the Florida lottery. Then I went to law school. And then in my first year of law school, the producers from Florida called and said, Powerball, which is a national game, they had moved to Florida at Universal Studios in Orlando for the previous couple of years, but it was too expensive for them. They were looking to move out of Universal Studios somewhere else. They were looking at Iowa, they were looking at Atlanta, and they were looking at Tallahassee. So he said they want to come to Tallahassee, but they need to know if there's talent here. Would you go talk to the board of Powerball and like convince them that you should be the host of Powerball? So I was like, sure, I'll go talk to them. So I walked into the board, they were all flew in, had this really great conversation with them. The next thing I knew, they had cast me as the new host of Powerball. I did it by myself for like 2 years, which meant all the way through the rest of law school, every Saturday, every Wednesday. I didn't travel, I didn't go anywhere. And then once I started working for Barbary, they brought on a co-host. And then now I am almost kind of like, I'm in South Florida now, and it's hard to get back to Tallahassee. I do it maybe like once every 3 months or so. I'm kind of phasing my way out and out of that world. But it was a fun, random series of events that culminated in doing it. But it was a great run. I did the first $1 billion jackpot, where I don't know if you guys remember, but it was when the whole world went crazy. I was on like Australian morning TV, I was on Israeli television. Everybody in the world was super interested in what us crazy Americans were doing, giving away $1 billion. So that was really fun times. Gabrielle.
Hello, I have a question, more of like a personal thing for me. So I got into Ohio State and University of Miami.
Okay.
And everyone keeps telling me that I should go to Ohio State because it's higher ranked
Yeah.
than Miami. But if I want to practice in Miami, I might get better connections in Miami. And my neighbor, I don't know why he like decided to stick his nose in my business, but he said that if you go to a higher ranked school, they go deeper into the class, like the recruiters, than if you
What's
go
the
to.
Ohio State rank? Do you know? I don't know all the ranking. Do you know what Ohio State is ranked?
I have no clue. Like, I think it might be tied with UF, if I'm not mistaken.
Tied with UF?
I believe so.
I mean, here's the thing, right? Again, I think you should kind of look at it holistically. I think ranking is a factor. Like ranking is a factor of the equation. Another factor is cost. Another factor is location. If you know you want to be in Miami, you're like positive you want to be in Miami, UM makes a lot of sense. Like a lot of people in Miami went to UM, you will have a lot more ability to sort of to find a network. Again, that isn't to say if you went somewhere in Ohio, you couldn't develop that. You may have to work a little harder. You may have to kind of, I would want to know what the difference in ranking was. I mean, at a certain point, it's a big enough difference where it's like, oh, this is a big enough difference. It's a higher ranked school. What they mean by going deeper in the class is that the higher ranked school, like if you're, top 30% at a top 30 school, that might be like a top 30%. But if you're at like a school that's not ranked, they might only be looking at the top 10% or something. So I mean they'll go deeper into like performance. As much ado about nothing in some cases too, y'all. I know so much ego around like the ranking of schools. Just go where it makes sense to you, where you feel like this is where I want to be. I got into like William and Mary. I went to FSU. I was like, I have a condo in Tallahassee. They're giving me a ridiculous like deal. I'm not gonna have to pay very much. Like it made all the sense in the world for me to do that. I have maybe only on a couple of occasions looked back and went, should I have gone to William and Mary? Should I have gone? I mean, it would have been a very different thing. And for me, a law degree was a law degree was a law degree. And it was you want to go to a good school, right? That's your job. And both of those are great schools. So you're not going to make a wrong decision. Visit, consider all the factors, decide what makes sense.
I just looked it up, and Miami is 67 and Ohio is 22.
I didn't realize it was that high. I mean, it's almost a top 20 school. It's a hard one. You have no interest in, like, you want to be in Florida for sure.
Well, my whole family's in Miami. That's where I'm from, like that area, Broward area.
Yeah. Did you apply to UF? Did you apply to any other Florida schools?
I applied to UF. I'm waitlisted here, but these are the three. Well, the two, but also Ohio's the middle of nowhere, and I'm kind of scared of that.
There's a lot of factors you got to consider. And that's a I didn't realize Ohio was that high. It's 22. It's a high ranked school. I would look at cost. I would look at, do you like it? Do you like being up there? Do you want to live there for 3 years? I mean, that matters, right? Like you're gonna
Yeah.
go somewhere for 3 years and live, and it's gonna be your, it's ranking is not the whole thing. It's a piece of the puzzle. And yeah, the old thinking, and it probably holds true to some degree, that the best school, quote unquote, best school you can get into, it's the highest ranked school. It may open up a few more doors in terms of like, but here's where it matters, y'all. It matters in big law. Do you want a job in big law? Do you want to walk into a big law firm, get that like proverbial, like brutal first year job? Yeah, making $350,000, $400,000 a year, but working 90 hours a week. If you want that, you want to go do that whole path, right? Like, then yeah, high ranked law school, do well, crush it, doors are open. If you've got like family that's in law in Miami and you just want to get a law degree, like that's a whole different calculus. I can't give you an answer, but I would say weigh it all out. Don't singularly look at rankings as you're determining. That would be my advice, right? People
Okay,
will
thank
tell
you so much.
different. You're welcome. You're welcome. I'm not sure who's next, Rohan.
Yes, so I'm a computer science major. I was wondering, would it be more beneficial to do an internship in computer science or an internship in law? Or would it be like 50-50?
Pre-law school, like
Yeah, pre-law school.
So here's my sort of gut reaction. You got to think about how many applicants to law schools are applying with like internships at law firms, like a dime a dozen, right? If I work in the applications department of a law school and I see somebody's coming in with like a computer science degree and computer science background and they're interested in the law and they explain to me why they're interested in the law, you're unique, you're different, I'm curious. So I kind of think about the application process a little bit like that. I mean, coming in with anything from the STEM side of things, big bonus, right? I mean, I didn't do this. I was political science major. I was like the dime a dozen, right? But if I had majored in like chemical engineering or something, I would have probably gone straight to the top of the list because that's unique, that's different. They want to cultivate this diverse class of people with all kinds of different backgrounds and educational experiences. So I'd say maybe lean into the computer science stuff. And more importantly, if that's what you like, that's what you should do.
Okay, sweet. Thank you.
Yeah. Megan. I'm just jumping around because I don't know who was next, so just try to get everybody.
Sorry, I didn't have my hand up. I think Helena was next though.
Oh, Helena. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'll go ahead. So I was just wondering how you like what led you to working for Barbary? Like, did you practice before that, or did you just know you wanted to teach, and kind of the process there?
I always knew I wanted to teach. Even like through law school, I was like, I think this is where I'm supposed to be. I wanted to be a law faculty. I thought they were great at what they did. It was interesting. I was kind of nerdy. I'm kind of like an intellectual. Like I thought all that sounded fun. Like I'd be cool just like writing papers. And so when I did work, I clerked for a law firm in Fort Myers my second year. So the summer of your second year of law school is a big opportunity to go get a summer internship, go work somewhere, work in a law firm. I did that. It wasn't like the most fun in the world. And then after law school, I worked for a firm in appellate law. So appellate law is like the side where after the case goes all the way through trial and there's an appeal, a different type of lawyer steps in to handle the appeal. And it's kind of like we don't argue cases in front of juries lawyer, we argue law in front of judges. Like it's a little more of like highbrow kind of like, so it's all law. They just sit in a quiet office and like hammer out briefs all day. That was a little too boring for me. So it was right around that time when Barbary came along and it kind of was a good fit. I was like, let's see what happens. And then it's a corporation and I just kept working my way up and haven't ever not been challenged. So it's kind of worked out and I've gotten to do a lot of cool things. Fortuitous though, I don't think I set out to do that per se. I don't know. I mean, so I didn't really ever practice. I sometimes wish I had done some practices. I think I would like it, but then I also recognize that there would be a lot of things I would not like about it. So I think I'm kind of pleased. Like I'm pleased with my direction. It's turned out well. Roe.
Sorry, it's a little windy here, but many people told me in the field, they told me that they discovered what area they wanted to practice at around this, like their second year of law school. And I feel like we all have a basic idea of what we want to get into, but it's not like set in stone. So I wanted to know what year in law school did you discover, what the like stage in your life you discovered what you wanted to get
But
into.
I thought if I practice whatever, yeah. So first of all, if you think you've got something decided, get ready for that to change like 15 more times. Like, yeah, that's not going to happen. Like you're gonna have many changes of mind as you go along about what you think you might want to do. You may have a sense like I want to litigate because I like the idea of being in the courtroom or whatever. Or I don't want to litigate because that scares the crap out of me. Like you may have that kind of figured out, but in terms of practice area, no, you can't know right now. You got to take a lot more classes and figure out what you think is going to be most interest to you. For me, like I was kind of like I thought I wanted to litigate. I thought I wanted to be like a trial attorney because I thought it would kind of cater to a lot of my skills. And then I ended up taking bankruptcy. Oddly enough, in law school, I was like, I think I could be a really good bankruptcy attorney. And now, even now, I'm teaching a course at FAU. It's in the an undergrad course, not in law school. They don't have law school in employment law, and I'm like really digging employment law. I think I'm like I could practice in employment law. It's a really cool area of law. I would have never thought about either of those two areas. They sounded boring, but they're actually quite interesting. So keep an open mind. You'll find courses and subjects that all of a sudden you just have an interest in, or that you think is interesting. And the other thing, and this happens to most attorneys, they fall into their practice area. They get a job somewhere, they're in a firm, they get a couple of client matters, turns out they're really good at those kind of things. They just kind of fall into their practice area through work and life and all of that. So don't be too rigid, like keep an open mind. You probably will have certain things you know you don't want to do. That will probably be the most, you'll have more of a sense of what you know you don't want to do. I do not want to be a con law attorney, is what most people would say. It's too complicated, too hard.
Well, thank you so much to everyone who asked questions tonight. And thank you so much, Sam, for being here. We really appreciate you and everything that you had to share. I feel like a lot of us benefited a lot. So thank you so much for taking time out of your night to speak with us.
Really, really my
everyone for
pleasure. And I wish you all the very best, whatever your future endeavor is, however your journey takes you. And Sydney, you got my contact information. I'm happy to come back anytime. You've got more questions or talk on whatever. I'm around.
Thank you so much. You're awesome. Thank you, everyone. Make sure you filled out the attendance if you haven't already. And yeah, everyone have a great night.